2021 regular meeting of the Fairview Town Council. And Councilman Peters will have our invocation.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, great thanks for allowing us to gather together tonight. Please watch over all of us as we do things for the town and for the people of the town. We love this town and everything it provides for us. Please help us to make good decisions. We ask you to be with each person here and those who aren't able to join us tonight. Please watch over our country. Continue to be with those dealing with the COVID issue as we kind of continue to fight through that. Please be with the service members as they continue to watch over us and everything we do. We ask this in your name, in Jesus' name, amen.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I do have a couple of changes to the agenda. I'd like to add number 3 under business item 3, Lisa Thomas to talk about the Winter Festival. And also number 4 to discuss hiring an engineer. We're going to have to reroute the septic line here in this building, and we'll need to talk about discussing hiring an engineer to do some studies on that. Are there any other agenda changes?
Have we discussed new attorney?
I was going to mention that in council comments. Are there any other changes? Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Are there any public comments? Okay, there are no public comments, so we'll move to the consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor? And the consent agenda is approved. So we'll move to items of business. Item number 1, discuss, approve major and minor subdivision requirements policy.
Several months ago, we as a group, the planning board, decided that after I heard a comment from a developer, that we didn't have an answer when a developer asked us, well, what does Fairview want in a subdivision? And I thought that was a great question, but we didn't have any way to tell him other than detailing him or him finding out, or her finding out. So we decided to talk about what we would like to see in minor and major subdivisions. Y'all talked about this last time. I think Jerry had a great idea about each lot, that if it had access to water, it should be required to have water. So we changed that. But everything else stayed relatively the same. This not only helps the planning board, it helps me when I have initial requests or comments or conversation with the developer. I can say, this is a policy that was conceived by the elected officials and the planning board, and here's the things we would like to see. It is a policy. It's not a, you must do this. But it would be direction to me that if they didn't do it, they better have a good reason why they couldn't. So we are requesting, the planning board did approve it. I cannot remember now how they approved it, but they did. Y'all saw it last month. I think it was unanimous. Y'all were last month, we added that comment and take questions.
Probably a stupid question, but I'll ask it anyway. Under the major subdivision, it says public water and sewer if available. It's available would mean within 2,500 feet. My question is, does that is that applicable to both sewer and water, or is that, what's that making reference to?
Sewer, we're not talking about, it's mainly water.
Just water?
We don't have any treated sewer, or we don't allow any treatment plants or package plants, so.
So that's, that'll never be a part.
If sometime way down the road, we get a sewer line,
Way down the road.
and it's in that area, then it would be applicable.
Yeah, so that's my question was, at some point in time, you have sewer available, does that apply?
Oh, yeah, water comes from sewer. Usually it comes from water. Here it doesn't because there's no sewer. In other parts where I'm used to, water and sewer are together. They're built together.
So I guess like what John's saying, if we come a scenario where we get water first and sewers later, or vice versa, and somebody wants to do something, does that 2,500 feet, would that apply to whatever occurred first?
Usually water comes first.
Right.
Sewer comes later. But you can't have sewer without water.
So,
Okay, so water usually comes first. It could, but I don't think so.
I think that's really so far down the road, there's probably a moot point, because the commissioners pulled the plug on the Lower Crooked Creek sewer plant and put that money instead on I think it's a 12-mile creek sewer plant, upgrading the ones up at Indian Trail and the western part of the county. So the fact that we don't have any plans for sewer in this area, I think is really pretty much a moot point as far as the sewer.
Retired 50 years.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to allow package plants. Or that's the intent, is not to allow any package plants. And the only sewer in Fairview would be, I guess it would be Tallwood, with the package plant there, and they're not adding on to that. So I really don't think the sewer is going to be an issue.
Emphasize again, this is a policy. It is a strong policy that I give to a developer, that here's what we're looking for. If they can't provide that, then I'm gonna say, you're gonna struggle with this. It can be changed at any time. If we feel like one thing is too hard or not hard enough, we certainly can change it. You can change it. I would say the planning board would probably recommend to you to change it. You could update it or change it anytime you want to.
Questions? I'll open the floor for a motion.
I move that we adopt this subdivision policy that has been presented to us.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. Okay, I'll move to item 2, discuss approved heating air system for the council meeting room.
For many years, we have wanted to upgrade the heating and air in this room. For various reasons, we did not. It has gotten to the point where these units, although when they're wide open, they're very effective, they drowned out everything else. So you can't have a meeting and those two things on. And I think we saw that at the last meeting, or I did. When they were turned off, I got hot. I would recommend that we do change out the heating and air air in this room to the same system we have in the office. I think it would, and in fact, that may be the systems we use as we grow into every classroom. Rather than having one big one, we have one small ones for each classroom that we can control, directly control better, I think. It would not run all the time, of course. Their SEER rating is about 19 or 20, so they're very efficient. They're ductless, so you see two outlets like you do in our office over there. I would recommend us doing that now. We have sort of said that we would, this building, as we close on it, and hopefully we'll close on it sometime this week. We'll close that our maximum we want to spend is 150. I think we will have a little bit extra in that money to put into the building, and I would like to see us do that. We've been wanting to do it a long time, and I think now's the time to do it. But I've got 3 quotes, good quotes. The top 2 or the 2 lowest are good companies. I know them both. They do a good job.
Who installed that system?
Byron,
Byron installed it.
What did that system cost us?
about 10 at the time, 9.
And that was what, 3-4 years ago?
When did we move there? 18?
18?
End of 2018.
Eventually, we will have to change out these things. I mean, eventually, they won't last forever, but they're very efficient. Here again, we don't use them very often either. But as we grow, we're gonna use this room more, probably, than we have. All of our committee meetings, and, that time. But it's not an everyday thing, so you can sort of turn it off when you don't use it. The rest of the building, I would say, hold off right now. The only problem we're having with heat and air in the rest of the building, it's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. The major problem is that we can adjust to that probably fairly easily. But the humidity is one thing that we've really struggled with. We've had to buy 3 dehumidifiers, but they seem to keep the mold off or the mildew off of the walls, which is good. So we can probably wait a while to do anything to the rest of it, except the bathrooms. Now, I've asked John to look at building and closing the bathroom, so we may could put a portable heater in there in the wintertime, and the fan in the summertime. They don't work, but they need to be replaced. But there's 2 fans in the bathrooms. They need to be working, and they're not working. So I think with the fan and the heat in the winter, I think they'll be all right. Once you can enclose it, now I can't enclose it.
So if we got those fans in there, should be working. I mean,
They're not.
they need to be working.
I agree.
Uh,
I just hadn't done it. I thought it was a breaker, but it's not a breaker. They're on. I think they're just not working for some reason. I have not hired somebody to go up and check it. But we probably need to do that. You're right.
Yes, we do.
I agree.
How's Byram on their maintenance and their response time?
Good. After they installed it, we had some trouble with the thermostats, getting to know them and how they work, because they are very sensitive. And after a couple times, they said, well, 3 times, they said, now we can't come out here every week and try to recode this. You're gonna have to learn how to do it. So we did.
And every time the power goes off, it messes
Every
it
time
up.
the power goes off, it has to be reset. You know, there's a trick to it.
But y'all can do that now.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Air Direct is now maintaining them. Byram is not. Air Direct, I think, does a better job. But they're maintaining them twice a year. They'll come out and clean it and make sure it runs right. $200 so,
So you say Air Direct
yes.
also?
They do mine at home. They're out of Concord. They've done our church before, so I've known them for a long time. And Byram, they're a good company too. I do not know Union Mechanical much. I've never used them before, but I'm sure he would do a good job too. It's just a little bit higher.
Yeah. I think we got a bid from him when we did the original over there, didn't
And
we?
it was the highest one. Yeah.
I'm familiar. I know somebody that works for that company, so I know who they are. I think the question we got to ask is, do we want to go with low bid to the company that is servicing it, or do we want to go with Byram, who installed the system across the hall? I think that's the question we've got to ask ourselves. I think we can throw out the high bid and just ask ourselves, do we go low bid, or do we spend another, $1,200 and go with Byram, who installed the one across the hall?
I would think that if Byram servicing that one,
No,
Air Direct.
I mean, Air Direct is servicing that one, and you go with Air Direct and have them service both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd be doing the low bid and they'd have the
I would say
service.
there's no difference in the companies. So both companies.
Qualification wise.
So, Air Direct, I just happen to do business with on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
Because our church, and it takes all our church business.
Any other
But Byram
questions?
is just equally as good.
Well, I've got a quick question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, it may be too lengthy to answer, so I'll tell you what the question is. You addressed the capital expenditure for the building. For those that would want to listen to the CD, can you do a real brief description what that means with expenditure? Just refresh.
Yeah, when we voted to purchase this building, we approved a max of $150,000, and we're spending $125 to purchase the building. So this would come out of that difference between 125 and 150.
We knew we were going to have little things.
Yeah, so I think it's important that to be said so people know how the money's being spent. That's all I wanted to have
Right.
brought up.
So page 5 of the booklet this month.
Okay.
Shows it.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to spend some money to get an engineer to reroute the septic line also. So that would come out of that as well. Any other questions, comments?
Only comment I've got is, we can discuss this, but I don't think we need to get into any kind of contract yet until we get the building closed out,
Agree.
until it's ours, then we can.
And hope,
We've only got one more meeting and it's, may not need air when that next meeting comes up.
Well, so
We've got time, we've got plenty of time at this time of year. It's not like we're coming on to the hottest part of the summer. But I just think we need to hold off on it until we get closed out.
I think we can approve it and just hold off on the actual work until we close. And hopefully we'll close this week. I've signed a contract with the county for the building, and the county manager has also signed the contract. So it's with the attorneys now. As soon as the attorneys can get that information to us, and we'll close on the building. Any other comments? Okay, open the floor for a motion.
Well, I'll make the motion that we go with Air Direct to install the heating and cooling for the meeting room with the understanding that this will go into effect once the building has been closed and owned by the town of Fairview.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, and the motion carries. Okay, we'll move to item number 3. Lisa, Thomas, talk about the Winter Festival.
Thank you guys again for just seeing the need for the community outreach and just bringing the community together. I'm just extremely proud of what we've been able to accomplish. This is our 4th year doing events, and we set aside our mission was going to be, number 1, we were going to be Christ-centered, and I think we've accomplished that. Number 2, we were going to make them family-oriented. We've certainly done that. And we try to showcase our small town atmosphere. Couldn't be prouder of the way things turn out. We knew when we went into it 4 years ago that we were going to experience some growing pains, and I think we're definitely there. After the fall festival that we have, we counted out the different things that we have, so we're estimating between 450 and 500 children. That doesn't count the Student Action Group, which is phenomenal. And they were coming from, I tried to poll some of the kids, and it just seemed to be a good mix from New Salem, Unionville, Fairview, and a lot from Monroe City that were coming in. So very proud of that. With that comes the need for more workers. The more people we have, the more workers we need, and that's where we're kind of hitting a brick wall. We've tried to reach out to various organizations, PTOs in the schools, to see if they would like to help in some way. Ground 40 actually were the ones that we used this past time. We made it happen, but it was hard work. They had promised us 25 workers, they came to 12. They're like everybody else. Every organization is struggling to get enough volunteers and help. So with that being said, coming into the Winter Festival, that's what we're looking at. We expect if we have good weather that we're going to have a tremendous turnout. It will again be the second Saturday in December, which falls on December the 11th. Our committee, we had some pretty candid conversations about do we want to move forward and have a winter festival, because we just came out of 2 concerts in the summer and fall festival, and now we're into winter, and all these people work full-time jobs. So we, agreed that yes, we wanted to do it because we see that the community is responding very positively to it. We want to continue doing the things that we have because it's shown that it works. And that's getting the children out to sing and perform. So we've already gotten confirmation from Fairview, New Salem, Unionville. Benton Heights is coming on to join us for the Winter Festival. And Trinity Baptist Church has a youth band that they want to perform. And waiting on confirmation from Piedmont and Porter Ridge high schools because they will be finished with band competition. They've never been able to participate in the fall. So we're hoping that they will come out for the Winter Festival and perform. We also would like to continue to do the stocking wall, which have gotten so many positive remarks from that. The town will purchase the stockings again for each child, and we will ask all the area churches, regardless of denomination, to come out and give church literature in the children's stockings, a piece of candy, a small toy, whatever they choose to do. So those are the things we want to continue. Of course, having Santa come and the different crafts and rides for the kids to do. But we do have an opportunity that has, I call it a God thing. I don't, that's just me. But at the fall festival, Joey Query, who is the pastor at Antioch Baptist Church, he's also a member of the Fairview community. So he has been out to all of our events and is always very positive. I ask them each year if they'll come and be a part of the Winter Festival, but they do a walk to Bethlehem the same weekend that we do the Winter Festival. So I said, we need to find a way that we can work this out. We need to work smarter, not harder. And he did some soul searching and praying about that, and got back in touch with me and said, this is something I would like to consider, is for Antioch and the town to think about merging and doing a program together. The event committee met this past Thursday night with 6 members of Antioch Church and the pastor to see logistically what they're talking about and how would that fit in to our event. Here's some pros and cons to think about after having about a 2-hour conversation, right, Teresa? Mm-hmm. And they went out to look at the park. They bring 100 to 125 of their church members to run the Walk to Bethlehem. So they actually, it's a very reverent ceremony, and they love the idea of being able to set up around the track. They would have 12 to 15 different structures that they create. And groups of people would get to go around and hear about the birth of Jesus. What that would entail would be taking 20 to 25 people through at the time. And the reason that being is because they actually have a tour guide that would walk with them to each station and tell the story as they go. He said that they could accommodate about 100 people at the time on the track actually doing the walk. If we do that, if we choose to do that and go that route, it would mean that our activities that we're used to kind of encompassing the whole park, we would move our events to either what we use as the parking lot behind the fire department, or weather permitting, up on the hill back behind where the stage is now. Our committee we're about 50%. We had 4 people that voted yes to want to do this. We have 5 that voted no and 2 that just said, I'm undecided, not sure. I think there are a couple of issues to think about. Number one, logistically, how does the town feel about incorporating a church into a large part of the service? We certainly don't want to show favoritism in one church versus another. But with that being said, I don't think there's a church anywhere, well, I know there's not a church in the Fairview, Salem area that we're not asking, number one, do you want to set up a table? Number 2, do you have a youth group that wants to be involved in some way? Do you have a choir? Any way that you want to be a part, we're doing that. And not only that, we're reaching out to area businesses too, not just keeping it to churches. So they do have the opportunity, but I also want to be very mindful not to try to show favoritism over one or the other, because we've had some churches that have supported every event we've had, and we certainly want them to feel just as honored, I guess. So we want to be mindful of that. The other thing is, if we were to allow this, I say partner, and partner's not really the right word, I don't think, just allow the 2 to go on at the same time, could we possibly accommodate the crowd? Because Antioch brings in a huge crowd for this event. We bring in a huge crowd. So we definitely are going to have to use either the town hall, Bethlehem, could possibly have to use Fairview to transport people over. We have had to do that for the past 2 winters, and hasn't been a problem, but it's also very costly. If we go that route, Antioch said that they could provide the van rentals that we needed because they have enough, buses and vans at their church that we could use those. So that's something else to think about. I think that's basically all. The other thing may be, of course, it's always weather permitting. That's a lot of work for Antioch to go to. If it should rain on festival night, I would feel led that we need to give them another night. We may not have the festival, but to give them another night to let people go through the walk to Bethlehem.
Do they do this walk just once during the Christmas season, or do they do it night after night?
Well, they ran into the same situation that we do. They started out doing it every weekend during the month of December. And as the years went on, Teresa, can you remember exactly how many years they said they've done this?
It was either 20 or 25.
Yeah, it was, I don't remember exactly how many, but they used to do it every weekend. Now they're down to just one, which happens to be the second weekend in December. So they do it Saturday night and Sunday night. The one thing they did ask is because they have to get rollbacks to move the actual structures here. Very time consuming on their part. And that takes a lot of commitment from them. If they were, could they be allowed to also hold it on Sunday night? And reach out to youth groups and church groups to come out on Sunday night. And I throw that out there because I do think if this is something we do, I think it's common courtesy on our part to allow them to do that.
What are the hours gonna be for the Winter Festival?
Well, we found, Gary, we started out with 2 hours and we felt like that was, the right amount of time. The next year we went to 3 hours and we finally felt like that was too long because we didn't have enough for a 3-hour time limit to really keep people engaged. I think if we do allow them to come out, we need to at least make it a 3-hour time span, and we may even want to go to 4. Again, we did not want to back out on having all the children come because that's our main focus, is wanting to continue to do that. But I think if we do, and we do include Antioch in this way, that's a lot of people coming at one time. A lot of people.
Do they normally do this at night?
They do. They like to do it from 5 to 8 or 5 to 9.
Yeah, they want
Yeah,
it dark. It's dark when you.
Well, is it, I guess, trying to be politically correct in saying this, would it be, from a town perspective, if it's the fall festival, that's the main thing, would it be practical if it was the fall festival from 3 to 5, and then they do their thing from 5 to 7? In other words, you operate this, it's a separate entity where somebody can't say that we're, even though I don't have a problem with it myself, but would that work where you get those people that come in the first part, then they can stay if they wanted at night, you can do both, satisfy both requirements.
That's something we talked about. I don't have a problem with doing that. The only thing I'm going to reiterate, we've reached out to every church in the past 4 years. And typically it's the same churches that we can get to become involved. And again, I know this is a government facility. My thing is, in today's world, I cannot imagine anybody saying no to wanting to bring good news to a community. That's my first and foremost. That's just what I think, but I know that that's thinking with your heart, not your head. But we have reached out to the Russian churches, to the True Light Church, to homeschool group. That's not a religious group, just a homeschool group that Moms for Liberty. Help me, Baptist,
Every major
Methodist,
church,
Catholic,
every church in
every
there.
church.
Everyone around.
You have some that really want to and get involved, and some that just don't for whatever reason. But I completely understand if this is a line that we don't want to cross. My big thing is because we do open it up and have for 4 years now, I don't see that as being an issue as much as I don't want to offend the people at Bethlehem, because my goodness, do they work and do so much for the community. So I don't in any way want to show favoritism to one church or the other. This church just happens to have this program, and they've had it established for several years. And I think they'll be absolutely fine if we say, no, this is not something that we feel comfortable doing together, but we'll support you, in other ways. But I bring it to the council because we were it was pretty 50-50 with the committee. Part of me says if that's the case, then we just need to shelf that, but also wanted you to have the input too.
I've got one thing to state on it, and the pond's always been our focal point. And I hate to see our group, as you might say, pulled away from it, because it's just, John does a super job of lighting up the pond and everything, and I just hate to see us have to go up somewhere else. And if there's some way they could put theirs up on the hill and they can go back into the backfield back there. The moat area on the other side of the pond, it's hard, it's dry, it won't be a muddy mess to walk through. I just hate to see us give that up, our space up for them.
What were the objections of the people that voted against it in your committee, Lisa?
Exactly what Jerry just said.
Okay.
If that was shoved off, we would be in the parking lot or in the field,
Yep.
kind of shoved off, and they would be the.
Yeah, I don't want to see that happen, because we've done such a good job with this program, and I'd like to see it continue, and I just think the pond needs to be there, and we need to be around the pond. And I think we got plenty of room for them, you know, if they just wanted to line their things up in a row. Still give them more room and separate it more than where they've got it at now, where they're doing it now.
That was definitely an issue that Jerry, you and Spencer both brought up. The second thing was, we've tried to make it child-centered, but the message is thrown in there. By doing the stockings and going around and you can visit the different churches. And the goal is being that there's an unchurched family that sees that one table and gets that literature out of the stocking and says, oh, I think I want to go there. So I think we have mixed in that without making it so apparent that that's what we would love to see happen. But
Plus, I don't want to see rollbacks backing into bringing stuff in where we got grass growing in wooded areas now, a good standing grass growing. And you get rollbacks coming in and out, and it's going to ruin it. In this middle of winter, I think it's going to really hurt our area down there.
What will be the status of and Derek can answer this, what will be the status of the farming part of the park at that point in time?
The beans should be cut by then.
Beans should be cut by then, be depending on weather and all, and, get this stuff outside the lawn first.
Yeah.
Before he comes up here.
Because I you know, like I said, you know, I understand what you're saying, and I'm not. You know,
But we can't put them back into the field, because if we do, it will be a muddy mess, because there's no grass out there. And you get 100 people walking through there, and all of a sudden your shoes are going to weigh 5 pounds. And it's got to be set up in the grass area.
Personally, I think, because I've had to ponder this, for a week, I think this is something that maybe you don't want to make a decision on right now, and just think about it, and what are the logistics, and speak to an attorney. What are we looking at any areas that are gray and could get us in trouble in any way? We certainly don't want to do that. We're going too much in the positive direction. We don't want anything negative whatsoever to take place. But the intentions are extremely pure. And I love to see any organization get this excited about wanting to be a part. So I certainly, want that to be said. And all I ask is just think about it, pray about it, and we'll.
And you did have a discussion with them, I think, of was there a way to incorporate both?
Right.
And I think that they felt like that if you had kids' activities and then their individual stations, that kind of complicated things for them. It made it difficult to do the tour part and get their message across.
Absolutely, right. And I also, and tell me if I'm wrong, girls, but I did not get the intention at all that their focus was to partner with us. from the conversation that I had with the minister, he sees this as an opportunity. They've got something great going on at their church. There's really no reason to change it. But if you see an outreach where you can reach more people for Christ, that was his focus.
Well, there's a way, I think, and we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have an attorney here with us tonight. But we can always, if we can rent the park, a portion of the park to them, which would, as long as they're not charging fees or entry fees and things like that, and they can use that, I think that would clear us legally. I'm not sure, but I think it would.
But you still got the issue of how do you get the rollbacks in there?
I don't think that, the rollback thing, we've gotten, displays from them, that they've kind of transitioned through and they don't use anymore. And the rollbacks is just to get, and they're all, you have to put them together.
They're already put together when they bring them to the park, is what he said. So we'll put them together at the church and just kind of scoot them off. He said to make it easier.
Well, see, that time of the year, they're not gonna be able to get, they won't be able to get to the backside of the
They're
pond.
gonna roll back down into the woods there.
Yeah.
I can assure you, they won't get a rollback to the back of the ponds, and we don't want rollbacks running on our track.
They are pretty simple.
Because they want to build.
It seems to me that, well, as far as the keep, you know, if this is the Fairview Winter Festival, I'm just trying to look at the big picture. If this is the Fairview Winter Festival and Antioch is one aspect of the festival, that separates two. My question would be, and I don't know, and I haven't been to the meeting, but is it feasible because of the logistics of it all? Is there enough room to where, and I don't know if this would impact you, but use the circle to where their structure would be around the circle the flags are, be around that rather than around the pond, where they would be, you got the rollback to be on the pavement and set things off, and you've got that big circle.
I don't think there'll be room. I've seen their setup before, and you're not gonna be able to get it in that small of an area.
I don't know, I'm just
And
saying.
if we do like normal, you're gonna bring the stage over to the circle. For the
Depending
singing.
on what we decide, yes. My wishes would be that the stage can stay. That's another meeting for a permanent stage. But that's a lot of work for those men to move that stage all the time. That's a lot of work.
It's gonna
Wear
fall
and tear.
completely apart from one of these moves.
I just worry about the, as it gets dark, people walking through the wooded area up there, because it will have to be, we'll have to get some generators in and light it up. If not, somebody's gonna fall and get hurt. You did a super job at the last singing we had. You had it lit enough that you could, it didn't take away from the show, but yet it was lit enough you could see where you were stepping. Because we do have some roots up there that's above ground. But as I told you the other day, I think it's a great idea, but I don't want to see it pull our focal point away for that.
It sounds like the logistics are going to be tough enough to where it's just going to be very difficult to make it work.
I think it can work. I think it can be made to work in a couple areas, but
Not around the pond.
I just don't want to see it around the pond. I don't want to see it pull away from us. And I think you said that some of your people on your committee
Some
thought that.
people have that.
I think the other thing is selfishly, I think we've gotten to the point where we're just looking for help. And I don't know, maybe you guys can come up with a solution to how to get more people to be involved, but we had 6 people tearing down the fall festival. Literally, 6 people, and it's the same 6 every time, or same group of people. We literally had to take the whole park apart,
put it in all of our vehicles and trucks and stuff like that, all over here, make sure we stacked it back up where it's supposed to be. You know, and it was the same 6 or 8 people that put it up. And we're going to hit a point where people are gonna say, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. Love this town, but I've done it for 5 years. I'm not doing it anymore. Town wants it, town figure out how to do it. I get the sense we're getting close to that by some of the people. I don't know how to get more people to help. That's the problem, because we ask and we ask and we ask.
What about service organizations? Because I know my grandson, he's in the Beta Club. And we brought him over here as part of his service. We brought him over here and told him to pick up sticks in the park for several hours. Are there any service clubs like the Beta Club or?
We have reached out to our beta clubs, student councils, Boy Scout troops,
The bands.
the bands, the PTOs, Ground 40.
People, I think it's come to, people just don't volunteer anymore.
And you're
Yeah.
willing to pay them. I mean, we tell people we're willing to pay them. We were willing to pay Ground 40 for 25 and they got 12.
But I will say, I will give Ground 40 credit. The people that did show up, they worked hard. And actually, one of the bigger tasks at the end of the Fall Festival was all those hay bales. They've got to be picked up and stuck back on the trailer again. They actually stayed and helped and picked up all the hay bales and helped get them stacked back on the trailer again before they left. So the ones that showed up were helpful. We just needed more.
Well, we're not trying to take something away from the town of Fairview as far as past, the winter festival and fall festival. And since help seems to be an issue, is there any way that we can make it work to where you get Santa Claus part of it? It's like, every time, times I've been here, once Santa Claus leaves, everybody leaves. And that's been a sad thing in that when that happens, and it's gone. And without taking away from what Jerry's saying, is there any way that we can come back and try to do fall festival on a small scale, Santa Claus and whatever you want to do for that, and then open it up for Antioch to do the stuff around the pond. In other words, it's a combination, because it'll take the 6 people could probably handle doing Santa Claus and that stuff, which you do out there initially, could you not? I mean, no. I'm talking about scaling it down, scaling it way back.
Well, but what we were just talking about is that you don't want to scale it back. You want the stuff around the park for people to do the walk through the park. I mean, if you scale it back, you're just going to do the upper section with the Santa Claus and a few decorations up there, and that's it. I don't think you get your draw in.
Well, I don't think
We don't want to cut it back. I mean,
When we do Santa Claus at the end, we intentionally put Santa Claus at the end because we do know that after that's over with, it's over with. So you kind of do the round the park thing first, and then you work your way to the lighting of the Christmas tree and the Santa Claus piece.
at some point in time, you have to make a decision if you get help or no help in the direction you go to.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the driving thing.
The decision will be made whether or not we like it or not. I mean, at some point in time, you're just going to say people just aren't going to come and do it, and then we're just going to have to.
The only reason I say it is because you want to get people to the park, to enjoy the park. You want to get them there for the right reasons. And if you do Antioch, they're bringing their people. They're 125 people are going to do the work. So y'all don't have to do the work, and that's what I'm saying. If you can.
I think the Antioch thing is great, and I wish we'd have dealt with this earlier in the year, or knew this was an opportunity. I think you have, in my opinion. I think we allow Antioch to do their annual event at the park, separate from the Winter Festival. And we might not be able to pull it off this year, but you work with the dates of the Winter Festival and their event, and because I do think it'd be a huge outreach for them. I wish we could let them do it now. And I mean, I'm kind of in the middle on both of that. I understand what you're saying, Jerry, and everybody's saying about the park part of it that is special. But I also think the Antioch thing would be fantastic too around for us.
I will say, sorry, you say 125 people they're bringing, that's like Mary and the baby. They said they will need our men to help them move these structures to and from the church. So I will say, even though they're coming, volunteering, all that kind of stuff, but they're not bringing workers.
So back to the 6 people have more.
Yes, because they asked if we had any men on the committee that would be helpful.
My wife didn't come up and say anything about that.
You already volunteered.
Oh, boy.
This Antioch thing, I don't like that anymore. Just,
I like the Antioch thing, but I think logistically it's going to be tough to pull it off in conjunction with, what I'm hearing is it's going to be tough to pull it off the way they want to do it and the way we want to do the Winter Festival at the same time. That's what it sounded like to me. I do like John's idea of maybe having them to do it on a different night in the future and figuring out how to make it work. I'm just puzzled by how we make the logistics work to mesh the two together.
you wonder if, selfishly, if you did something like this, whether it's this time or next time with Antioch, does that spur other organizations to get involved with Antioch stepping up? I mean, that's a selfish way to look at it, but people might think twice about it. Hey, Antioch's out there, we might be out there.
Yeah. So what's the pleasure of the council?
I see no problem. I just think we need to get them back over here. And I don't know if they've added anything else to theirs or not. And I'll be down there. I got a family reunion down there on the 24th. And I'll get a chance to look at the buildings, see how many they got. But I think we can work it around a different area. And make it work. I'd love to see it happen if we can make it happen.
Would you want to go back to them with that option and say, hey, we'd like to meet with you again and maybe walk around the park and see what other options there are? Is that something y'all would like to do?
If that's what the council would like.
I think that's what I'd like to see. And because they will not be able to get their buildings or sheds across to the backside of the pond. That is going to be muddy and wet back there because it always gets that way in the wintertime. On the other side of the track, they will not be able to bring a rope back in there and get it out. I don't think they get the first one in there to come across.
What's your gut feeling about them using another area of the park? You think they'd be willing to do that? Or do they have to have the area around the pond?
Well, I think, that's just such a beautiful area and it was ideal as far as a walk.
Yeah.
Because we thought the same thing about the stocking walk.
Yeah, that's just it. We think it's a beautiful
Right. It's an
walk, and that's why
ideal
we've always had it that way.
area. Exactly.
They were very sold on it.
Absolutely, they were, and I don't really think that they would be interested in doing it separate from the festival. Because there again, they would draw in the same crowd probably if it was their church, not in conjunction with festival time. So, I mean, that's just me thinking that probably would be the case, but I'm more than willing to contact them again and see if they will come out. If you would like to meet with them, they can answer questions or you can ask, or we can just shelve it until next year.
I think I give it a shot and see if they're interested in coming out. Let's see if we can reschedule, relocate. away from the
Yeah, I
pond.
would think that might be the best thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do, is at least offer them some options. And talk to them, and at least express there's a serious interest that we'd like to figure out how to make this work, and have some discussions about the future years of what else we possibly could work out with them.
I think you've heard what council's feelings are about it, and I think you and your committee can go back to them and figure out what you can and can't do.
I'd be glad to meet with you. I got your phone message the other day when it's too late, so.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say something else that we might be able to do, if it works out or not, whether it works out or not. One thing we could do is if they want to hold it at their church, we could get some volunteers probably to go help them over at their church for their event. And maybe we could pull some volunteers from their church over to our event to help us. And we can have some conversations. I know a few people there, maybe we can get together and talk to them about it.
That's a good idea.
Anything to help.
Thank you for what you do, and thank you for what your committee does. Please know that you are very much appreciated, as well as your committee.
They are hardworking bunch.
They are.
I think we were all shocked at the size of the Fall Festival. With everything that's been going on, I was completely shocked at the crowd and how large it
huge.
was. It was very pleasantly surprised.
And I've heard so many comments from people, wow, y'all really put on a nice festival. Any other comments for Lisa?
I would say, don't leave until council comments leave.
Okay, let's move to item number 4, discuss hiring an engineer to reroute the septic line and the septic system. We have finally gotten the plans for this property, and there's a holding tank for the sewage that's right outside this window here with a force main, a pump that pumps the sewage this way underneath the building to the bathrooms in the other building. So when the fire department tears down this building, our sewage has no place to go. So we've got to figure out how to reroute the septic line and where it's going to go from there. But right now it goes under the building and out to a drain field out on the other side of their building. But when the fire department tears this building down, we've got to be ready to move. What I've done, I've tried to figure out who I can get in touch with to try to figure out what kind of engineer we need. I talked to my son, who's also an engineer, and he gave me the name of a sanitary engineer who does civil engineering, and I know the kid. He's in his 40s, still a kid to me. And I have put a call in to him to see if he'd be interested in looking at it. But we're going to need to hire an engineer to figure out what we can do and how we have to do it. So what I would like to ask for is permission to make some phone calls, talk with some engineers, talk with 2 or 3 different ones who specialize in this, and then authorize me to go ahead and get started on that. Because the fire department wants to close on this building, just like we want to close on, they want to close on their building and get started on the demolition as soon as they can. And we need to get started on that right away. So I'm thinking set a high figure of $10,000 for an engineering study on how to reroute the septic line from this building and where it needs to run to a separate drain field, or either get an easement from the fire department once they figure out where theirs is going to go, if they're going to be able to use that same drain field.
If we use it, it'd have to be from here, the only place we got, we'd have to put it right out to the old gym.
Yeah.
We can run the feeder line underneath the pavement, but you can't pave over the drain lines.
Yeah.
So,
And we've got to figure all that out as quickly as we can so that when the fire department gets ready to start, we don't want our sewage run out in their demolished building. So that's kind of where we are. I just want to throw that out and ask permission to go ahead and get started with an engineering study.
I see no problem with it. I really don't think we need to vote on that. At least that's last time we come up with a situation like that, Joe said we didn't need to vote on it. As long as we was in agreement, if you want us to vote on it, I'll make a motion.
I'd feel more comfortable voting on it.
I agree. I mean, we're talking about a commercial property, so you're gonna have to get somebody. You can't just hire a septic guy to come out here and run a line.
Right.
I'm fine, and I would approve it.
Can you make a motion?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we look into an engineer to cost not to exceed $10,000 to investigate the septic issues for this building, once the buildings come under our jurisdiction.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? And the motion carries. And I'm waiting on a call back from one engineer right now to see if his expertise extends to that area. And if it doesn't, then I'm sure he's got some recommendations of local engineers that we can use for that. Okay, we'll move to council comments. Gary, do you have anything?
I'd just like to just thank Lisa and the event committee for it was well impressive. You know, very first one we did, and my son came out and brought his drone out and video. I don't know if you have seen it or not, but the comment that was made, that or the Winter Festival, I'm not sure which one, was a person that came to the festival said it reminded them of watching somebody on the on TV on the Hallmark channel. So that says it all. So thank you for the attention you put into detail and making it happen. That's it.
Okay, Patricia.
I too want to hand it to you, Lisa. You have a good committee, but your committee has a great leader, and we appreciate everything that you do. I know also we are feeling the absence of our attorney tonight. I was able to attend his service, I think maybe last Friday. It was a very meaningful service. And I've known Joe for a long time, but I didn't know him as really a personal friend. I knew his wife better than I knew him, but I left that service feeling like I knew him better than I had known him. And I was glad that I could be there.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Jerry.
Well, I got to disagree with Lisa on the attendance, and they may not have it 6 people, but y'all did a heck of a job. It looked good. I polled 96 adults and got the number of in their party with the kids, with the wife, how many came in the car with them that day. And it turned out there was 278 out of those 96. There was 278 individuals came. I tried to count. I counted. When I got to 200, I quit. People coming by, I did not get a chance to talk to. And I said, heck with this, because I'm not being able to spend time with the people that are stopping in. And and you know, percentage wise, 36 of the people, and I'm figuring I talked to about maybe 25% of the adults that was there, because a lot of them never came down to the walk. They went straight to hear music. And but 36% of them were from Fairview, 32% from Unionville, 13% from New Salem, and 18% outside the city limits. I thought that was a good percentage. And I will throw this in too before somebody calls me and asks me the gift certificate that was given away at my booth. Mary Lou Belt won, or Mary Lou Starnes won, excuse me. Mary Lou Starnes won. I want to say one thing to the mayor. I like the price you ended up with on the building, because I think I told you I wouldn't vote for it if it wasn't under 130. So I'm happy with that. And Lisa, I apologize. I have not asked you about this, but I got to thinking about it. I'm going to have a fishing tournament 2 weeks from now at the pond, and it will be an event. So I'd like your permission to hold it. I'm not asking for help from your committee.
Someone's gonna ask for help, Jake.
But I did want to run that by you before it went any further.
I'm not the boss.
All right. I think that's pretty much all we have. We still run into a problem with our dumpster. And I don't know if it's going to be feasible. Still got one big garbage can over there that's full of garbage. I ain't got any way of hauling it over here to dump it. And the dumpster, within the dumpster, they packed it full right after the event. And I just stored all of last week's trash in the building, in the back of it, until Friday afternoon and Saturday, when they got they pick up our trash on Fridays, and then came over and put it in the dumpster. And so I pretty much almost had 2 weeks of garbage in it. But I did double bag the garbage when I stored it in the building up there. That's all I've got.
John?
We are not decorating the park for a fishing event.
I just said I didn't have
That
to
is
do
not
that.
gonna happen. No, I thought
You can come over and operate scales for me.
I can do that. Once again, yeah, the festival committee does a great job. And it's a good event, and it's a great reflection of the town, so. We came out of there, I was tired, but it was funny. We sat outside after we got done and got talking about, do we really want to do the winter festival? And, I immediately said, yeah. I said, just after you see what happens, you really want to do it. So I am so pleased with the town is. And then I'll also reiterate what Patricia said. I had gotten to know Joe, someone on a personal level over the last, since I've been here, and he's helped me and my family with a few things. And actually I had talked to him that Friday before he passed away. So extremely sad at the loss of Joe. And I've been thinking about him and his family.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
I have thought of one extra comment I'd like to make before your comments. I wanted to comment on the Ground 40. I understand that they only brought half the people that they had agreed to bring, but I made the full circle around the park that day. I introduced myself to every Ground 40 person that I was aware they had on their T-shirts. Those people were so grateful to be here. There was something special about having them here and having their help. They just told me they were honored to be here and be able to help. So gave me a good feeling.
Ground 40 does a great job. I know two men who have been through that program who were addicted and came out clean. So they did a great job. I went to Mr. McCollum's funeral also last Friday, and I thought it was a very fitting tribute to him. I also went to the elected officials reception last Thursday night. Our Raleigh delegation was there except for Paul Newton. Paul Newton's aide was there. He's our senator in the 36th district. But I had a chance to talk with Dean Arp, our representative in the House in the 69th district, and also Mark Brody, who was our former representative to this area. And Todd Johnson also looked me up, and we spent several minutes talking. He's not our senator, but he has the 35th district, which is in the southern part of the county. And he told me that that there's a good possibility with redistricting that he will be our senator instead of Paul Newton. But I thanked Dean and Todd for supporting Fairview in the state budget. We're blessed that this council has an excellent working relationship with our legislators. And in the state budget for Fairview, I hesitated at first last month to throw out the numbers that Dean has given me, but Dean has told me that even if the governor vetoes the budget, which is likely, that they have enough House votes to override it, and he thinks they have enough votes in the Senate to override it. But in the budget for the town of Fairview is $50,000 for purchasing of this building, and $250,000 for the park, for expenditures in the park. There are no conditions on that. That's not a matching grant. The only thing that we cannot do with it, we can't pay down the loan on it. But as far as park planning, facilities, that type of thing, assuming that this budget does get passed, our legislators have put $300,000 of state tax money for the town of Fairview, which I thought was tremendous, and I thanked them. I also thank Mark Watson and the 3 assistant county managers for finally being able to purchase this building. We've been working at it long enough with the assistant managers and the manager and the county commissioners and trying to make that happen. I did sign the contract for $125,000 for this building. Mark Watson also mentioned that he has signed the contract, so we're waiting now to get the closing finished so that legally we actually own the building. But the contract has been signed. Both of us have signed the contract. In fact, Mark Watson said I wish that the county could get the kind of deal that we gave you on this building. You think about, we got an 8,100 and some square foot building in 3.14 acres of land in the middle of Fairview for $125,000. Where else are you going to get a deal like that? And I told him, I said, well, what I told the county commissioners is I want you to give it to us. And that didn't fly, but they didn't want to set a precedent on that. But in essence, they were very close to giving it to us for the price that we got for this building. Also, with the passing of Mr. McCollum, we're going to have to hire a new attorney. I reached out to an attorney who grew up in Fairview, and she has no municipal experience. Her expertise is in family law, so did not consider her. I also talked with another attorney who handles one of our neighboring towns, someone that I had known all of his life, and he was not interested in committing another night every month to us. But I did talk with him about other attorneys in the area. We reached out to another attorney who lives in Fairview, but he has a conflict. He has another council meeting on the same night as ours. But the attorney that I talked with that is in a neighboring town. He did give me some recommendations and highly recommended one that we're going to interview on Thursday of this week. Patricia, Ed, and I will interview her on Thursday of this week. She handles 2 other municipalities in the county, so she has a lot of municipal experience. And hopefully, if that meeting goes well, then we should have a recommendation to bring back to council next month. And we'll have an interview in closed session so that everybody can get comfortable with the new attorney. And that's all I have, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? Adjourn.